6 o'clock. Brian, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I should have looked at this. We have two sets of minutes. First is the November 26th work session. And Brian, you were absent. Would anyone choose to make a motion?
I move that those minutes be approved as written.
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Abstain.
Okay, I guess I'm missing a regular meeting minutes. Do you have them?
I don't. But we got them, had them
Don't
sent
have
to
them
us.
in here either.
Don emailed them to us.
See, I was trying to locate that, I couldn't find it. She usually does it like a couple days in advance or something.
Is on that. Oh no, this is just these.
Have to put that one off.
That was the regular meeting.
It was just the
Yeah.
26th minutes. That was on that.
Oh, well.
All right. So that was the regular meeting that we approved.
Okay. All right, so we approved the regular meeting minutes and the work session. Did we already address the work session, or is that still outstanding? For goodness sake. All right, so,
We'll look at it next meeting.
yep, so it's tabled. Kathy, did you catch that?
Yes.
Announcements. The Select Board will meet on the following dates. We'll have a regular meeting on Monday, December 10th, and a tentative budget work session on December 17th at 5 p.m. on 2018. Work sessions prior to the regular meeting will start at 5 p.m. Town offices will be closed Tuesday, December 25th, and Tuesday, January 1st, 2019, in observance of Christmas and New Year's. All of the above meetings will be held in the town hall unless otherwise posted. Citizens wishing to be listed on the Select Board's agenda should notify the town hall before noon on Friday before the scheduled meeting. Alternate members are always needed to fill the positions on zoning and planning boards. If interested, please submit a letter of intent to Plymouth Selectboard's office, 6 Post Office Square in Plymouth. ESU update. We don't have President Don Burks, but we met with him at a work session prior to this meeting, and we will meet with him continuously, like every month, which is good for us. I don't know if there's anything else that should be said about that meeting, but we have a visitor this evening. We have Maura McCann, Director of Marketing at the New Hampshire Lottery, and she's here to review Keno.
Here? Good?
Wherever you want.
Or you can sit up.
right here if you like.
I'd come up here, I think.
Yeah.
If you don't mind.
No.
Thank you.
Not at all.
Have a,
Oh, yum. So you may remember me. I was
I
here
do.
a year ago
Yeah.
or so.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you for ordering much better weather for me, because last time when I left, there was about 2 inches of sleet on the ground, and it was about a 2.5 hour ride home back to Concord, which was fine. Had a nice little caravan of cars traveling with me, and every time one would peel off, I'd go, oh, lost one more. But the weather was perfect tonight, and coming into Plymouth, it was beautiful. The clock tower was all lit up, and it was a beautiful
nice, clear,
sight.
beautiful night.
Yes, absolutely. So I would like to bring you up to date as to where we are with Keno. We are almost 1 year to the date of the launch, which was December 15th of last year. We have 160 locations statewide selling the game, all the way from Berlin down to the Monadnock region, over to Nashua, the Seacoast, and of course north to Manchester and so forth. We did about $8.5 million in sales for the 6 months of December 15th through June 30th, and that met about $2 million in net profit, which was earmarked to fund full-day kindergarten. We've done more sales, of course, July 1 through the current date. So all told, within the course of the year, we're at about a little bit more than 20 million in sales. We had originally thought that we would have about 250 locations that would do about $45 million in sales for the year. So we're a bit behind the 250 locations. We did not expect cities to actually vote it down. We did not expect Concord to say no. Portsmouth, so we were surprised by that. And we found out that a lot of the select boards didn't have enough information in order to make that decision to put it either on the town ballot or the town warrant. So we are here doing Keynote 2.0. We have sent all of you a couple of letters. I don't know if you have received the latest one. It just went out on Friday from Charlie McIntyre. So I am here again to discuss getting it on the ballot, getting it on your town warrant in order to allow the citizens of the town of Plymouth to vote on the sale of the game. When I look at Plymouth, I really have to look north to see what the Keno locations are doing north of here, be it in Lincoln up to Berlin, Gorham, and Lancaster. And in looking at sales, we're seeing anybody doing maybe about $600 a week in sales, up to a high in Lancaster. Scorpio's Pizza is doing almost $9,000 a week in sales. And what that means is, if we're looking at annual sales of about $30,000, that means about $2,500 in sales commission. But with that Scorpio's Pub, they're doing, if they maintain the sales or even if they go higher, they're doing about $500,000 in sales for Keno. And that means $37,000 in sales commission. And what we did recently was, if you did receive the letter from Charlie McIntyre, the director of the lottery, it had this insert. We recently commissioned the University of New Hampshire to do a survey on our behalf, to talk to the 160 Keno locations and asking them how Keno has worked out for them. And about 110 actually responded to the survey, which was great. And the majority of Keno retailers, about 75% or so, they've said that it has had a positive effect on their business. It's attracted either new people to come through the door, or their current customers actually stay a bit longer. They buy another beverage, they buy another appetizer or so. And I frequently get called on to pay prizes, and it's always fun going out there to pay a Keno prize, because the ticket actually says where they played. And oftentimes when I pay them the prize, they say, I'm going back to the location because I'm going to tip the bartender, or I'm going to tip the wait staff, that sort of thing. If it's a prize that can be paid right then and there, again, the wait staff and often the bartender, they benefit from that Keno win and that sort of thing. So nearly half of the Keno locations, they have said that they have seen an increase in food and beverage sales, anywhere upwards of 10% more. A clear majority say, 81% or so, say that they plan on to continue to offer the game and to renew their license. So we're actually coming up in December, mid-December, with license renewals. And licensing involves a $500 licensing fee that they pay to the lottery for the state of New Hampshire to maintain that license.
Why would someone not renew if they already had it? Did they, just because they didn't see a big enough profit or commission?
They may, or I was actually down in Moulton Borough last Thursday, and one of their select board members took a ride to Laconia, and they talked to the staff, they talked to the bartenders and everything. And he said everything that was cited in our survey, that I have shared briefly some of the bullet points with you, they repeated to him. The one complaint, the staff actually had to make change. And all I can imagine is that the customer had a $20 bill and perhaps only wanted to spend $5 with the self-service Keno machine, so they would ask the wait staff to make change, that sort of thing, so.
I've heard feedback from players who they feel that in those non-self-service areas, they annoy the wait staff or the bartenders to make change or to cash them out or something like that.
All of them have self-service machines.
All of them.
All of them
New
do. What I can surmise from what you've said is that if they've won a prize and they want to get cash, instead of going back to the Keno machine and receiving credit on the machine to play more, they want to cash out at night. And they do have to go to the bartender and ask to be cashed out there. But again, the bartender often reaps the benefit from, cashing out a prize
Could see that,
with
yeah.
an additional or a higher tip.
Thank you.
Certainly. So right now, there are more than a dozen locations here in Plymouth that are eligible to apply for a Keno license. There are other criteria once they do apply that have to be met. We have heard from the Panther Pub and Grill. They actually completed application last year, and when Plymouth did not vote in favor of the sale of it, we had to refund their licensing fee. So if Plymouth were to say yes, I imagine they will be first in line to perhaps put in a application. George's Seafood and Barbecue is interested, as well as the Six Burner Bistro. So we do have some interest in locations here in Plymouth. What's great about offering Keno too is that the people stay here in town and they eat in town instead of going, for example, north of here to play, so.
We didn't have an actual vote.
Yeah, well, we had a public hearing.
It was a sense of the meeting, wasn't
No,
it? At the,
there was no warrant on the town meeting because, we ended up having no interest.
oh, yes, at the meeting, yes, that's right. That's right.
I thought that when I had left last year, you had voted to put it on the ballot,
No.
No.
On the warrant.
on the warrant
And there was
at the
a
town meeting.
From what I recall, we didn't say that.
They had public hearings.
Yeah, we had a public hearing and there was no interest. There was nobody at the public hearing.
I think we tabled it, didn't we, or is the
Yeah.
topic?
Yeah, there was,
'Cause I remember,
after you visited us, I believe we said we'd have a public hearing to see if the interest in, nobody
no-
showed up or.
there was no interest here for or against, really. There was
Now,
nothing.
when we suggest the public hearing is actually to answer questions
Right.
about Keno, the game, not whether or not there's interest in offering the game. So we say that the public hearing is so that people can learn about the game, they can understand the game, and certainly from our perspective, as you would expect, despite the fact no one showed up, doesn't mean that there's no interest in the game.
That's how we gauge.
Right, see.
I feel that,
of course. Mhm.
if, so I think that's why we decided to maybe put it off for a year. See,
Understood.
So
Again,
have you approached other businesses besides George's Panther Pub? and Six
We
Burner?
have talked to, of course, during the day, it's a little difficult, and getting calls back, and that's from the list that I see. A few of the places have said that their place is a little too small, doesn't have the space at this point, the restaurant is too small, that sort of thing. But there is some interest, and what we found out is once it's offered in one restaurant, the other restaurants often hear, that people are going there and playing Keno, staying longer, buying the extra beverage, buying that extra appetizer, seeing some new faces come through the door.
Why was the common man, the flying monkey, removed?
Actually, the Common Man, when we spoke to them across the state, they said that they have no interest in offering anything associated with gambling.
Okay.
now both of their country stores on 93 North and 93 South sell lottery tickets.
Bill, I have a question.
Sure.
When you say a percentage goes to full-day kindergarten, does that go to a statewide coffer, or does that go to the town to offset their kindergarten?
I can tell you 17 to 18 cents of every Keno ticket sold, $1 Keno ticket sold, is the net profit. And that net profit is earmarked 100% to fund full-day kindergarten. And at the lottery, every month, we send the net profit over to the state treasurer's office. And the state treasurer's office puts it into the educational trust fund. Once it's in the educational trust fund, it's up to the Department of Education to disperse it to the various school districts, including kindergarten.
So
So it's not earmarked for kindergarten? It's not earmarked for all-day kindergarten?
Yes, it is.
Okay, I thought it was up
Yes.
for the Department of Ed, or,
No, the Department of Education disperses the money.
Okay.
So, as Charlie McIntyre says, we walk up to the treasury, we drop the bag of money, and we walk away. So it's up to the Department of Education to disperse those funds to the school districts that have full-day kindergarten, yes.
okay.
So 17 to 18 cents of every dollar.
So towns that have not approved this could be getting funds from the state for their
The
full-day care.
legislation does not say that you must offer the game in order to receive the benefits, correct?
Right. Do you have some? Oh.
I don't know if you'd be able to answer this or not, but if, say, a town already had currently fully funded kindergarten, would they not be eligible to receive for?
I do know from the state of New Hampshire, per student, it's $1,800. As of this year, it's $1,100 more, so it's now being funded from the state of New Hampshire, $2,900 for full-day kindergarten. And if you reside in a town or city, which there are not too many of them, but if you don't have full-day kindergarten, you do not get that money.
You say it went from 900 to 2,000?
18 to 29.
2,900.
Oh, yep. It was currently previously funded at $1,800 per student
I'm
for
fine.
full-day kindergarten. And it was $1,100 more.
Yeah.
It was a combination of the net profit from the sale of Keno for the last 6 months of the fiscal year, as well as money from the state of New Hampshire, which was $1,100 more for a total of $2,900 per kindergarten student for full-day kindergarten. May I answer anything else?
So what's your suggestion? That we put it on the warrant, or make sure that it's,
Do you have the opportunity to, I know the Secretary of State's office likes it on the ballot. And do you have voting on Tuesday before the Saturday town meeting? So you could put it on the ballot. That, again, is preferred by the Secretary of State. But a lot of the towns also put it on their town warrant for discussion at the town meeting, and they vote at the town meeting.
I would,
Some of those questions are answered in this.
oh, okay.
oh, okay.
A little bit, but
That was part of our discussion last year, was
Which to do.
that I think Brian and I probably both mentioned talking about it at town meeting, so it could be flushed out, would be a lot better than to just have it appear for them to say yes or no.
And I thought it was mentioned, Bill. I thought you had mentioned it.
Right, we were going
And
to
no one
talk
stood
about
up
it.
and said either way.
Did we get that far?
We were gonna discuss it at
We
town
reviewed the
meeting, and it
tape.
never got brought up, I
Yeah.
think. That's what happened.
Okay.
So, we're a year down the road now. I would really like to have this discussion at town meeting and then come back 12 months. That's my thinking.
If you did discuss it at town meeting, you could also have a vote that
You
night
could,
as well.
that's,
right?
Yeah.
We could?
Yep.
Yeah, they could move it from the floor.
Yeah. I'm all for that after the discussion. I'd be all right to have a vote.
Yeah, it's not gonna cost us anything.
Again, you do have interest from businesses in town here, which is a good thing. And of course, you do want to keep the people here, staying local.
Agreed. Maybe we can,
Well, I mean, my thought is that if it goes on the warrant, it's going to get discussed at town meeting, inevitably. People get the warrant, they get the annual meeting book before the meeting. They know it's there, there's going to be discussion about it. I think it would be a lot cleaner decision if it's on the warrant and we have a vote than if we wait to, not include it and then
Discuss it.
discuss it and get a sense of the meeting, and it's just not as clean. I would like whatever decision gets made to be clean, and it's
Right, because it is only a small percentage of people that will show up for town meeting.
true.
It's two sides to that sword, though.
And that's actually what happened in Moulton Borough. They had decided last year to put it on the ballot, thinking that more people would vote via ballot, therefore it would be voted favorably. And ultimately, it did not work out that way. They put it on the ballot, and they thought because people were not educated as to what Keno was, that it was not voted favorably. So they're going to do it once again.
should we have another public hearing?
We could,
Try.
but, as you pointed out, it's just basically to educate those that might have questions. Yeah, I think we can just put it on the warrant or something. We can discuss that.
And I think that we can, I mean, the question Q&A thing that's attached to the papers in our folders has some good information that can be put out for the townspeople to see what it is they're voting on. I mean,
Maybe we could scan it and put it on the website?
Yeah.
Town website?
I think that would be a good idea.
Actually, you must have it available. I mean, this document.
We will send you an electronic file, how's that?
Oh, that would be great.
Yep.
Great.
Yep, easy enough.
Put it on the
Yep.
town website and let
Right.
people know.
You will see it tomorrow. And
Excellent.
that PowerPoint presentation was more or less what I had talked about last year. That's just part of your packet, so I did not want to bore you again with that.
It wasn't a bore.
All right.
Okay?
Thank you so much.
All right.
Much more.
Thank you. Lovely ride up here, and I appreciate it.
Good, I hope you have a good
Right.
time.
Have a good
Glad we
trip
could
back.
accommodate you.
Thank you.
All right, let's see. Okey-dokey. Are there any
Did we
committee
still-
reports? You want to start with Brian? Start with Brian?
Well, I have a Parks and Rec Commission meeting coming up Wednesday.
What's CCC?
Yep. The Community Campus Council met, was it November, back in November, and discussed the new housing policy to try and keep students on campus. And it was discussed at length between a lot of the off-campus housing landlords and the university, and it was received, and also spoke about the increase in mental health intakes to the counseling center, and what the university is trying to do to support the students better and more effectively. And there was good discussion about that. So things are moving along in a positive manner, I believe, between the relations between the university and the town, so.
Well, it's probably an opportune time to talk about the fact that when we met with President Burks and his discussion about how the students that are expected to stay through their junior year, it will only present 60 to 70 student impact on off-campus housing. So it's really nothing, and the enrollment is increasing to the extent that, off-campus housing will not see, a drastic reduction in people requiring people to move back on campus, so.
And it provides an incentive for the students to perform at a higher rate academically, which would give them the opportunity to move off campus when they reach that age.
Anyway, it wasn't quite as severe as we thought initially, but yeah. What was the other one? It was
I wasn't able to make that meeting.
Okay.
Water and sewer. So.
all right. Thanks.
The Conservation Commission meets next week, so I will go to that meeting.
And I have nothing to report.
The planning board last week again approved Market Basket. So, that was pretty well our sole objective. And
Were there a lot of conditional approvals, John?
no, there was, and I didn't bring the paper with me. There were two of them, and one of them just involved, they already have a bonding with DOT. There was, in case there were any improvements that needed to be made at the intersection, that was added, and there was just a couple of minor things that had already been discussed, but we didn't receive the final paperwork because we just got Mike Vignali's responses to the engineering, and he had 2 or 3 items that were very minor that were added on there as part of the condition.
And the state's okay with the light?
Well, we don't know what's going to happen yet.
Okay.
And that's why they wanted that condition on there, that if there were finances needed, that there was bonding there, and they also already have bonding for the Irving and all that, and that would be inclusive with the Highland entrance there. Also attended the Water District meeting. There were 27 people there. The commissioners wanted to get a feel for those people that were there. Again, they sent a letter out to the people that went last March on the bond voting, because they have not decided yet. They brought up the fact that the $7.5 million grant, they were going to have to borrow roughly $10 million. And they had not made a decision. They have the authority to go ahead and accept the grant, but they know there was a lot of opposition to it. 7 people voted for them to go ahead and accept the grant and move on and get the loan. And there were 12 people that said no, they didn't feel like they should. They were saying that the USRD, which is rural development, stated that if they did not take that, basically I think it was 5.6 million on the grant, and then there was 1.8 million that was available from the state, which came to the 7 million. That they would not be available. They would not be able to receive any grants if they turned this 5.5 million down. There wouldn't be any grants in the future, which I found, hard to believe. I haven't followed it up since then, but there were 6 people that abstained and did not vote. So there was no decision at that particular point whether they were going to go forward. We really expected a lot more people, but there was a lot of good discussion as to what the projects were, why they were going to, borrow the 10 million up front, and with 11 projects, 3.3 million that they were going to use was for the new well over in the Holderness area, to develop that, and plus Main Street, which they're going to have to do. So have not heard anything. Again, on the average, consumer was going to have a 50% increase, and some of the others were going to be as much as 80%. It's, again, the discussions were brought up, why this wasn't done incrementally, and save and work projects, similar to what the town does. You take a project at a time and you get a grant for it and you borrow the matching funds, but
So what's the effect of the vote, though? The vote
the effect,
is just
the
give the
vote,
board a chance to review the feelings?
it gave, that's what it was. They just wanted to see, get a sampling of the people that were there. That's why we wish there were more people, because, again, it was 2-1 against it, against them getting the grant and doing the increase. But they were not bound by that vote.
Okay.
So, and we have not heard I haven't heard anything come out of the water district as to what they have decided to do or not do. And they would not make that decision at that particular meeting. But I know they have to make that decision on that grant sometime this month. So, the decision is pretty imminent. But we just haven't heard. And that might be something I'll do tomorrow, is check with them and see what they've decided and where it's at.
Since this decision affects all the ratepayers, it's too bad that, it wasn't publicized to all the ratepayers in the district. I kind of wish it had, so there would probably be more sense of what people actually wanted. But, thanks for going to that meeting. And
Yeah, and there are things that just have to get done, but why all 11 projects? Why borrow all that at once and throw it all into one grant, But, and because it was brought up, is why don't we just borrow $1 million and have to match that and do it project by project? But the USRD said it had to be lump sum, could not be X amount per project, and borrowed that way. So, and that was something that they were going to get back and take a look at. So, but we made a lot of calls. I think we contacted, a good 80 people, to be there, and we ended up with 27 people coming, and unfortunately, that's where we're at on that.
still, the sense was 2-1 against.
Right, 2-1 against, but again, with the March meeting, authorized them to go ahead and do it, and they can. I want to check with the water district and get back with Paul, so we can let the people know what the final decision is. So.
All right. Thanks, John.
So, let's see, December 3rd, I went to the PES school board meeting. Winter program will be starting up soon. They had a secure classroom drill, which they've been working on. It was by mistake. The teachers had no knowledge of what was going on. It went, from what I understand, flawlessly, and the police arrived as they should in a very short order. They have in the budget proposed campus security, and if the high school, regional high school, does not vote for it, which would be, I believe, a certain percentage, and then the PES would pay another certain percentage, it would be for 180 days of the year, and the town, I believe, would pick up the rest of the days for that officer. I think that's how I understood it. So if the regional school does not go ahead and pass it in their budget, then PES would have to relook at the cost involved to have someone on site. There was a Chamber Board of Directors meeting last Thursday when we had our meeting, so I attended the first 30 minutes, but nothing to report on it for the Chamber.
Okay.
Like the campus security was essentially a officer, right? A resource officer
Yeah,
Yes.
one
Right.
resource officer at the
for
high school.
both.
At the high school for
But if
both.
it- Yeah, right. Station, they were saying that officer would be mainly at the high school.
Yeah.
That's where they have room for him to set up
Yeah.
space, but
But share
they would,
time?
but they would keep him or her going back and forth, keep them moving, from what I understand.
Okay. Very good. Are there any, what?
You have to look at that signature thing.
Do we need to look at that? That's a different thing.
Okay.
The one that we signed, getting over.
What's the other one?
The preservation easement, you mean? Yeah, we could do that. So I can get signatures. It's just a renewal. It's for the Antigua Historical Barn. And the board did this, let's see, 2006. It's for 10 years at a time. And it should have been renewed in 2016, but, so it gives a percentage discount for the barn itself for preservation because it is like historical.
Okay.
So we used to have two, now we only have this one.
All right. So let's see
You
Ellsworth.
just need to vote to extend it for another 10 years.
All right. I'm going to read it, or what? Man, that's too long. to
Did
read.
anybody get to look at it?
I read through it.
I did too.
Okay.
John and I
Have
both
you
looked
seen
at
it?
We could post it downstairs.
Well, we're going to sign it tonight, probably.
Yeah, well, but so the public can read it if they
Yeah,
need
yeah,
to.
sure.
We can post a copy.
So have you seen this?
I have not.
Okay. Want me to like race through it? To hit all three of us?
I can look at it real quick and,
Okay, go for it.
That's the other part that goes to the
Give it a gist of it
state.
if you want, so we can spit it out.
Ellsworth Barn.
Ellsworth
Ellsworth Barn has been in historic preservation
Yeah.
for many, many years, and it just has to be renewed as a historic site in
Right.
order for it to keep its status, and
Yep.
it just gets a tax break.
Yeah.
But it's got lots of conditions that they have to maintain it, and they have to do all the work for it.
Where is it? Where is it?
It's on
It's by Fox Park,
Fox Park, across the street.
across the street, right above
Isn't it the one on the hill?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
Texas
the big
Hill.
house on the hill. on-
Ellsworth Mansion.
Texas Hill.
Yeah.
very beautiful.
Oh, it is, yeah.
Barn up there.
That's for the state. That's the application itself, and that's the easement deed to the town.
Want to pass that paper?
Okay.
All right, so it's basically historical preservation of agricultural structure. It's a 4,356 square foot easement.
I would move that we approve the extension of this discretionary preservation easement.
Second?
All's in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All's opposed? Ayes have it. They specify black ink.
I think I've got a blue pen, too.
Were you kidding, Bill?
No, it says black ink.
Because blue doesn't copy well.
Usually government documents can be
Yeah.
either black or blue
I
black.
think the new copiers are.
Well, I worked for the state, it had to be black, and now it's like, it seems like blue is like the
Yep.
better choice because it's hard to, more difficult to reproduce. So, you got an original copy, I don't know, but. Any other new business?
Not from me.
If you want, you can go ahead and sign that.
So we're done. Sorry. All right, we're done with this.
Thank you.
Very good. Thanks, Kathy.
Thank you.
Now, are there any public comments? Yes, sir.
My name is Christian Bisson, and I'm a resident of Plymouth since 2004, so about 15 years ago. And I reside with my family on Chadwin Lane. And every winter we have this kind of gamble on seeing if after the first snowstorm we will have services from the city for plowing or will be a contractor. So I just have a question for the planning board. I met with Mr. Freitas, we talked at length about the situation, the history of Chadwin Lane and the maintenance of Chadwin Lane. I understand that we're still a private road, street, and I understand that we have a bond, the city has a bond against Mr. Hiltz, and that he's forced or required to maintain the street for us. We don't pay anything to Mr. Hiltz. He never come to us and ask us any money for contribution for the snow plowing or management of the street. So my question is for you as a select board and sort of is what's the long-term plan, for Chadwin Lane? Because eventually that agreement or this, I understand the status quo won't last forever, I'm assuming. So do we have a plan for Chadwin Lane?
I think essentially, Hiltz is going to have to bring it up to town, requirements to include a guardrail.
Fancy.
And so it's basically, in his, jurisdiction. He's going to have to fix it first before we could take it over.
Yeah, that's what I understood too. So my question is, obviously, the following question is this, is that sometimes we do get good services. Like every year, we change, I think, subcontractor. And some winter, we get good services. The street is open promptly and efficiently and safely. But some years it's not. So some years it's very narrow and it's not salted, or it's not sanded. And also we have Mountain Street, and we have about 25 houses now on that street, as well as the chairlift lane and the summit view. So I think we're sort of wondering, if eventually we're going to have Mr. Hiltz move, and if he doesn't move, can we put pressure on him? But is it to the advantage, of the resident of Chadwin Lane to move that forward so that we can have, secure services and good services?
Just, do you have an association?
No,
Oh, okay.
no.
Maybe, Paul?
We did have a great meeting,
Yeah.
and Mike McNally is putting a list together
Okay.
It's still needed to
Yeah.
be done out there. And also talked about the cost it would take the town to handle that. It costs us, like, $40,000 for Boulder Point. I would say that's at least equivalent to Boulder Point, so maybe 50 to 60,000 a year. And the fact that we're short one truck than what we used to have, and one person.
Yes, so don't be too quick on this, no. like-
No, but
Um,
so anyway, he is being contacted, and just like our own highway department, he usually is slow at getting to do a good job in the beginning, as our new drivers are. We had that discussion that if he ended up with one of our new drivers, he probably wouldn't have been pleased with that either, until people get into a groove. And it was worse this year because we usually don't handle it in November what we handle this November.
Right.
So I'm sure it's the same for Hiltz. And it is very common for us to have to contact him each year around this time and explain to him that the job isn't being done properly. And then I feel the Russian roulette that the neighborhoods play, where they feel like he is doing a good job. It's usually, he's not doing a good job in November, December, but he is doing a good job by the time in January it comes around. So I think it's every year he's not doing a good job, and every year he then does a better job.
Mhm. So, maybe if, once Mr. McNally comes back with a list of items that Hills needs to,
We discussed we had a deep discussion on why doesn't he just respond and finish it, but he's not obligated to. And
Right.
it's not costing the town any money. The only obligation that he has is to continue to repair the road. 3 years ago, we had a sinkhole up there, and we were able to repair it right away because we can make him repair it, and that crack down the middle. And we can call at any time, and he's required to handle those. I explained, when we take it over, you're on a 10 to 12 year rotation for repairs, and that we also don't do curb to curb during a storm. We just go up the middle of a road to get it open for a school bus. So when Hiltz is doing the services correctly, it's being done better than what we do. And his blade is lower because ours is adjusted, his shoes sleds at our blade. And we're at a higher height because we're transitioning from different surfaces.
Mhm.
So he can come in and just keep his blade lower, and sun comes out, hits the black pavement, and snow goes away when it's done properly. That's not the case of our trucks.
So obviously I understand Mr. Freda's position of passing the buck down to Mr. Hills, and we're lucky enough he's not passing on to us. But again, my question is, what's the long-term plan? Because I don't think that statu quo will remain like this forever. I've been here for 15 years, but eventually either Mr. Hills will go into bankruptcy, or retired, or move on, or pass away, and we shut to him. But at one point, this whole thing will fail. And I don't want to be caught having to look at my neighbors and I have to pull out the shovels to take care of our own street.
But the town can't accept the road until our engineer says the road is ready, so it's really,
Yeah.
I mean, there are plenty of roads that, people are paying to have plowed because they're private roads.
And I don't think Mr. Freitas is passing the buck.
He's not passing the buck.
And, if you wanted to expedite the process, and if the current residents on Chatteron are in agreement, do a petition for Hiltz once you get the necessary items that need to be repaired, and see if he would listen to, a majority of people on Chatteron. But, yes.
And Bill, in all fairness, Mr. President, I don't believe he meant that I was passing the buck and trying to weasel out of it. At least I don't believe that's what you meant.
No, what I mean is basically that I understand there's no incentive for you to accept that street at this point.
Because I explained, once that happens, what Val just mentioned, with our engineer finally accepting it because everything's been done, then we still can't just take it over. It requires a vote. And if that vote is
By
held
the
from the legislative body to take it over, to put a warrant article out there. But if it's voted down, it's voted down. And we will be asked at that time, is there going to be an extra cost to the budget to take over Chatteron Lane? And Val has been there. We've had three selectmen go through the selectmen process, basically starting out as selectmen to have us take over Chatham Lane, and I explained until they became selectmen and saw how difficult that actually was.
Well, I remember,
The Boulder Point being our last takeover.
I remember taking over Leadside Lane. That was done,
Boulder Point.
probably, what's that?
Boulder Point was the last one.
Well, Leadside Lane was also taken over.
Yes, it was.
Yeah,
The same, but we didn't have the manpower to take over Boulder Point, which is why it's subbed out.
right.
Chatham Lane right now, we did not add that truck back into the mix. If we did not add that extra driver, Chatham Lane would be subbed out.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, again, when I mentioned, Leadside Lane, I mean, the process was in place to, verify the fact that the met code, and I don't recall even a vote. It was a vote of the town, or is it a vote of,
It starts here,
Selectmen.
then it goes to the legislative body.
okay,
But the other problem that I'm having as a town, there is no covenants when it comes to the road. There is no fee being paid. If every family up there was paying Hiltz
yeah,
to
right,
perform this duty, then the board would have more grounds to help in the matter that beautiful houses up there, paying a decent tax rate, and not getting the services that the rest of the townspeople are getting, because they're being charged, and I just came up with a number, I believe that they're $800 a year for each family to pay for the plowing. But that's not the case. The road's getting plowed and there is no charge for the road to get plowed. There was a problem before, if you may remember, there was no mailboxes allowed up Sharon Lane, and I petitioned the post office, US Postal Service, and got permission for the mailboxes to move from the corner, to which each family up there now also has individual mailboxes.
right.
So there is individual mailboxes, the road is being plowed, they're not being charged for the road to be plowed.
Well, you did vocalize, that. I mean, there is a risk, if Hills were to
No, I
go
agree.
bankrupt.
No,
That's
I
what,
like
yeah,
to come to the
it's the
side.
long-term plan. At one point, something's not gonna be like this forever.
But I don't have that crystal ball that says when that risk is gonna kick in.
Right,
And I don't completely know the reason why this particular contractor isn't just finishing the punch list.
yeah,
But he's allowed not to finish the punch list, and for whatever reason he's using, I don't know. All I do have the authority though is, if it's not being done properly, Brian or myself contact him and our engineer, by the way, town engineer, and say what's not being done properly. And that has to be corrected.
Mike had something.
Mike.
So is there, with the reevaluation, is there less of an assessment because they're not a town-maintained road?
So Mr. Freda says that their tax has been reduced somehow. I don't know how much, but over all those years, it's reduced because.
Right, it is not put down as a
When-
town-maintained road.
So that does
A little bit, not a lot.
a lot.
Well, but I also explained when it does become a town road, the extra expense now, because it's no expense to us right now as a town, their properties will get hit with a portion of that, as will all of us that live in Plymouth. Because it will become part of our budget at that time. So in many ways, we can act like it is a town road, because we do have the authority on how well and when that thing needs to be repaired and plowed, which is very unusual for us to be able to do that, and not have to spend any money in the process. So we can control the contractor. We can make sure the road stays in decent condition outside of winter time. And then when winter time comes, we can control how we want it to be plowed.
But it does sound like there's a minimal amount. I mean, the road seems in fairly good condition. It wouldn't take much for Hiltz to bring it up
There's a lot of guardrail. That's the biggest item, and I'm talking a lot of guardrail.
because of the steepness of the
That's the
road.
most costly thing on the punch list.
And he's asking about the process, so the process would be, we'd either have to see the people, the 25 homes on that road, all kind of getting together to petition to show the need, or to see them, how much they're paying, having to pay out of their pocket.
But it's not us.
It's the
Yeah.
townspeople, so we would be the one to bring it to the town
But that's after,
after it gets brought up to be acceptable by Mike Vignali.
which Brian and Mike McNally are working on the list so that you will also have it, and I will have it. Now, I remember, Mr. President remembers that we needed to get a cistern up there. That took an awful long time to make happen.
Are there any roads out there now that have petitioned where the town has said no?
Not that I'm aware of.
I don't think they've ever made it. I mean, I know there was discussion about a couple of roads when I was previously on this board, and they never,
Like, their condition was much worse than Chatham Lane, and they could never
yeah.
bring it up. And Kathy, that road out on 3A, where the property was that we sold, the road off of 3A.
Melvin,
What is it?
Melvin.
Melvin.
Right, Melvin, and, you know, they've always tried to get us to take that over because it's a direct road up to Tenny Mountain.
Yeah, but it's association owned.
And that had craters
Theoretically.
in it, and I believe there's still craters out there that could
That's what?
swallow up a
Not
car.
association.
So there's a good chance the towns, I mean, it's
That's
hard,
good, the
I would
town can't
think it
touch
would be
it.
hard for someone who's getting their road plowed by the town to then say, no, you know, I don't care about those 25 homes. I think it'd be hard to say no, especially if the road is in that good of a shape with the road, off of Cummings Hill Road, I should know the name of it.
Coming so.
What was, I think Marth? It's a,
I mean, but the whole point.
but did it, was that taken over by the town?
Can't hear me.
It was off of Cummings Hill Road, my neighborhood,
Marjorie Lane.
Marjorie Lane.
Oh, that's right.
Are we plowing that?
I think so, yeah.
It must be
Yeah,
just,
Marjorie's, I think, owned by the town.
I'll have to get back to you on that later.
okay.
But if I hear you correctly, are you saying if the budget goes up $60,000,
Yeah.
you feel like there won't be any problem with people voting yes?
But we're gonna be part of it, isn't it? We looked at if we decide to organize ourselves,
Right.
and we feel that in the long term, it's better for us to
You'll be
get this.
25 people of 3,000, like 2,000, whatever. How
Yeah, but-
many homeowners we have up, we'll all have to,
Yeah, but we've been helping for 15 years. I've been helping other streets, other private road or other public road to be plowed. Maybe time for other neighbors across Plymouth to do the same thing for Chapman Lane. I mean, I think we're all pitching to the same pocket, isn't it?
And I think
but I also showed the numbers that day that, yes, he is being charged for some highway services in the budget because
engineer says
he doesn't
nothing we can.
Only travel on,
levitate once he leaves Chatham Lane.
I use Main Street on the street. There's another private
Road,
there's a
so-
street with housing that I don't use at all.
So part of his bill does have a highway department portion in it.
So what I understand is that there's no long-term plan, and I would say it's up to us to organize ourselves. And if we obviously want to be preventive and not see ourselves at one point caught with suddenly a bankruptcy that we didn't see coming, and then we're caught with nobody servicing our road, we're better for us to organize ourselves
Well,
and make it happen. Is that correct?
Well, the list is coming down the pike as far as what,
Well,
the engineer.
I'll wait for the list.
Yep.
Get the detailed list, and then, present that to Mr. Hills, put some gentle pressure, and if not, can we get some help from you to?
Right, it can start there because it's not a long-term plan. There's a long-term policy. When this happens, then B happens. When B happens, then C happens.
Mhm.
And I'll get that list to all of you. So
Sounds
there is a
good.
process.
and I'd just like to offer one more observation, and that is that the long-term plan needs to be Hiltz's long-term plan at this point, because our hands are tied to do anything
Yeah,
until
that's it.
Hiltz
Yeah.
meets the requirements.
But I did suggest that day that when I give him his list from our town engineer, to get a hold of Hills themselves as a community up on that hill and ask Hills, when are you planning on finishing this? And if not, why not?
And this happened about 8 years ago. We did that. We organized ourselves. And we met Mr. Health, and the town told us what needed to be done. And a big chunk of the punch list was done, but some are still remaining. So that's why we're so surprised that it's not being finished. So nobody's moving anything. So it looks like we're still back at, the ball's still in their court. We have to organize this up again and do it again. It's just that for us, I don't think that it's a safe thing for us to do to just stay in the status quo. Eventually, something's gonna happen and we're gonna be caught, with,
That's a good point. I'd be concerned too.
yeah. Okay, thanks, that's the answer to my questions, so I appreciate that. So if we get that list, that'd be great for me, so I can organize them.
The engineer he was out last week, like I told you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
As you know, well, Dave Davis was here, but he's ill and he's couldn't stay. But there's some unfortunate circumstances that happened after the town has taken the property, and we asked for, I asked for research so I could figure out what was going on with the property. I didn't get that. I got a letter that said we had to get out, or he had to get out and move his stuff out. Unfortunately, we have not been able to get everything out because of the weather, but also, I had to file suit against Mary Davis and the town of Plymouth because the will and the estate and the death certificate has never been filed in the Supreme Court or the Superior Court in Haverhill. So that was what they told me I had to do. So I just wanted to come here and say, I don't know if that stops all proceedings or whatever, but I'm still getting a letter together about repurchasing the property. I guess the letter that I wrote was insufficient, so I wasn't sure quite what to say. I didn't get the letter from Mary. She just actually gave it to me last week, and it was, dated November 9th. So I think I have till tomorrow to write that, but I didn't know what you wanted in the body of the letter, so I just wrote that I was, thinking of that. And so the suit has been filed. I don't know, the paperwork could probably come in a couple of days, but since that's against the law not to record or not to register the will and the trust and the death certificate, I guess so I couldn't do anything except, Dave's taking his mother to court for that. And now that's over we're requesting anything that's been lost because the will was not put in probate or hadn't gone through probate. So I think that's what's going to happen. I didn't know if there was anything, I don't know. I just wanted to come in and say that because nobody knew, that the grandmother who actually is owns the property and wrote the trust, that her death certificate was never filed and the will was never filed. So the trust was never filed, I guess, so that's what's going on. Mary has never told us anything. I know you gave her letters, about the property and everything. She's never talked to Dave. He's just recently come up. He's sick now. He's got something going on, and so he's been very ill. But I'm just trying to help him, and thank you for your addressing the veterans, the disabled veterans losing their home on Veterans Day situation, because nothing came of that. We were both in the service, and so he had no place to go, actually, on Veterans Day, because he lost his home. The police came and said, they put the tape around and said, anybody in the house is going to be arrested if you don't get out. And I thought, why would they do that? He didn't get an eviction notice or anything. They didn't tell him that, okay, they just came and said, you'll be arrested if you don't leave the property. I thought that was a little strange. I mean, isn't it normally like an eviction process that you put through? Because we never got any mail from the town. I mean, it's always been sent to Mary because she's the executive trustee. And she just gave us all this mail the other day, and I got through all this. I don't know. So I'm just telling you that's what happened. So since Mary has broken the law with the situation, which is what the Supreme Court told me, and so now it's going, I guess we have to do all over again, put it in probate and do whatever has to be done. But if you have any chance to say it, like to research something or, help me, that would be nice. Or you could help Dave. We could figure it out. If the taxes need to be paid, then, we'll figure that out too, because now, I don't know. Now it's going to have to stop because of the fact that it's going to court. So, thank you for your time and, whatever. I tried to research it before this all happened, but since it happened, I was really trying to help him and his mother, really. I called her a couple of times to talk to her, and she's really not interested in, talking to me or anything, so. And Dave's been laid up since he's been sick, like, at least 4 months. He hasn't been able to get up and out. He got out today, but he's just not well. So that's why I'm helping him, Because you'd ask me, why are you doing this? But that's why. And he's a, Desert Storm veteran. Loved his grandmother, lived there for 50 years. He qualifies for the adverse possession, but that's usually when the property is not in a will. You can do that. Since it's been in a will, but the will was never registered, it's kind of complicated. So the court is kind of, I don't know, saying that it's a very complicated situation. That's all. I just wanted to say that. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. I guess we'll wait for the results of the court case. Or
Thank you.
any other public comments? Very good. Well, and no non-public? We have a non-public? No non-public. So therefore, is there a motion to go into non-public session under RSA 91A:3, Roman numeral 2, A through I?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye.